and it eventually led to female problems, which we're going to talk about today. But I'd say in my own lifetime, in the last 30 years, how halacha has progressed on the highest level, where we would sit Sunday afternoons, we would get phone calls from couples who unfortunately were afflicted with infertility, and at the time, psak that was given was not lenient. And then over time, as more information developed regarding the medicine, we now have a situation where couples are able to have children. So in just a 20, 30-year span, we saw a major change in the ability of couples who unfortunately were suffering from infertility to now be able to have children. Infertility rates range anywhere between 10 and 15% of all couples. Usually 50% of them are either male factors and 50% are female factors. And there are many different reproductive technological assistance that couples are now getting to allow them to have children, where I would say 20 years ago they would not have been able to have children. We're not going to be able to cover all of them, but we will, speaker today in his halacha shiur will cover a specific issue, and there will be other issues that will come about. I will like to describe just the basic, that's the uterus. And patients have ovaries with a fallopian tube that connect to the uterus. And during the cycle once a month, there will be an ovulation process where the egg from the ovary will be ejected into the peritoneal cavity. It sort of finds the way into the tube. And conception actually occurs very oftentimes in the tube, and there needs to be implantation in the uterus for a pregnancy to begin. Sometimes it doesn't make it all the way there. You can have an ectopic pregnancy where the embryo will actually try to develop in the tube. Unfortunately, that's very rare. So there are situations, for example, today, where a patient might lose their ovaries because they have ovarian cancer, and both ovaries have to be removed, or they've had surgery on their ovaries, and they have no ability to have an egg. So there will be situations where patients can have a donor donate that egg. That means another woman has an egg extracted through ultrasound technology. There is in vitro fertilization. That egg is taken with the father's shichva zera, the sperm from the father. An embryo is created after 2 or 3 days. It might be a 16 or 32 cell embryo. It starts with 1 cell and divides 2, 4, 8 until there's a time where they'll take that embryo and implant it directly into the female uterus, and a pregnancy will result. So that's even without eggs, a couple can be able to have children. Now there's halachic questions regarding if somebody else donated the egg from the ovary, who is going to be considered the mother.
Can't you take the egg from the woman when we take out the ovary?
Now, there are many cases where the patient has problems ovulating. So patients through ultrasound guidance can have their eggs retrieved through a needle. An IVF procedure can occur with the regular mother, the genetic mother, as well as the regular genetic father, and then the embryo again is transported into the uterus.
And Dr. Agatstein is going to focus on the case that we're going to have a shiur.
Now, let's say if you've lost the eggs, there are also situations, let's say a person has uterine cancer and the uterus has to be removed. There are cases now of uterine transplantation. So a uterus can be harvested just like other organs and implanted into a patient. So now the patient had a native uterus, but lost that uterus, and now has a new uterus implanted inside of her. And a pregnancy can occur with that uterus. So there might be questions. We'll just recognize that from a medical standpoint, that kind of uterine transplantation can occur. There's another situation where embryologically, the uterus usually just has 1 cavity. But the uterus at some point can have embryologic abnormalities where a septum occurs. And essentially, the patient is left with a uterus that has two compartments, almost a double uterus. And there are cases of pregnancies in both sides. And Chazal used to talk about, certainly in the Daf Yomi now, in the Seftanita, we have cases where it talks about twins, where one child comes out, let's say the 7th month, and the other child came out in the 9th month. And there was always a question, is this real? Can this happen medically? Well, the facts are, it can happen medically. It was recently in the literature, maybe a couple of months ago, where there were twins, and there was a significant prolonged time between the delivery of the two twins.
I'll stop you. It's not twins. They're not twins. Two different uterus.
Yeah, but
that's not twins.
I mean,
Twins.
in
Different. I'm sorry, I have to stop you.
I didn't say twins. In the case where you have two uteruses, there are cases where there have been delayed births of the two children that were housed in the double uterus.
No.
That medically has
one child was born at the normal uterus. 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, another baby was born in another uterus. Now, the question would be, I'm going to stop right in there, there are two uteruses, right? There are two pchorim, maybe. For one uterus, pete rechem. I'm going right there, shout the question. Two uteruses, two pchorim, two older kids, two oldest kids. Not a matter of time. He was born from one pete rechem, the other one was born from another pete rechem. Do we have 2 times pidyon haben? Or 1 time? That's one question. Now you can continue.
No, that pretty much sets it up. This is to recognize, and at any point during the thing we need further explanation, we will do so.
As you notice, my shear is not a shear. My shear is the interaction shear. Interactive. You are going to ask me questions. Ernie disturbing me, I disturb him. That's the way we learn for so many years together. Baruch Hashem, we are chavrusa for many years to come, and we discussed. As a matter of fact, we went together to Machon Pua, and we spoke in front of 1,000 people at the time. What was the subject, Ernie?
Well, to speak.
Would it be the same child if the first born was a girl in one uterus? And the boy
that would be the first child. Well, 2. I'm soon enough to ask the child. Give you a few minutes. I'll ask the child. Yeah, why not? If Peterechem, she is a Peterechem here, he's a Peterechem there. Very good.
What Zvika is referring to is there was a case in 1976 of two identical men. They were identical twins, and there is a condition where you're born without testicles. It's called anorchia. So he had no testicular tissue. So of course he was infertile. And his brother, the identical twin, was normal. So after the one person with his normal testicles had had 3 children, he donated one of his testicles. And Sherman Silber, who was a microsurgeon in St. Louis in 1976, performed the only testicular transplantation that's ever occurred to the man. Means we had to identify the spermatic blood vessel and the remnant of the transport tubing that leads for normal ejaculation. And he received a testicular transplant and was able to have a child a year later. So the question was, who is the father? Is it the one who donated it or the one who actually received it? And Zvika and I wrote a shiur based on, I gave the medical background, and Zvika described the halachic parameters. We actually were invited to Machon Pua in Yerushalayim. We spoke in front of 1,500 people. We went around to many rabbanim, including Rav Asher Weiss, Rav Ovadia Yosef, Zichrono Livracha, and Rav Vosner's based dinim to get their opinions on these issues. So this is real chavrusa shop that has led to real practical halacha.
Okay, our case. 2 rechems, 2 with uteruses, 2 wombs.
What is the nature of the wall between the 2 uteruses?
It is.
Then I mean, is it the same as the uterine wall? There's another wall?
It is. Look at the picture. Look at the picture. Now you see, there are many kinds. All the questions that what you asked is correct. That's one way. Now you see, there's a middle, it's 2 separate ones. We'll go and ask that. And there's another one. I wrote an article, and I think it's going to happen very soon. ladies were surprised. Doctors wrote that an artificial womb, artificial uterus, is going to be very soon available. Meaning, you need a sperm, you need an egg, and the womb will be outside. It's like an incubator. Right now, the incubator works for a couple of weeks at the beginning, a couple of weeks at the end. Eventually, there will be an incubator that works for the entire 9 weeks. Wow! What happens if that artificial incubator is going to be even inside the stomach? Do we have a pidyon haben? What happens if he's outside? Do we have a pidyon haben? Strange, huh? Okay.
If she has a pregnancy on one side, can she then conceive during that pregnancy?
Well, hormonally, it would be quite difficult to do so. It would be much easier. So, for example, in this picture where you see there's actually 2 different uteruses where they're just bridged near the cervix. So there, technically, if they had relations, you could have a natural pregnancy in both uteruses. Once pregnancy sets in, and the pituitary gland, LH and FSH, and the various hormones, that might make eventual implantation, let's say a month later, 2 months later, difficult in the other uterus.
It's difficult,
but you could see it occurring simultaneously.
It's difficult, but there's a Tosfos in Daf Mem Beis in Soita, Machlokes between Rashi and Tosfos, in 2 men can impregnate a woman at the same time. And Rav Zilberstein says it is, and we found out later on that it's correct with this way, if you have two women.
It's potential.
Everything is potential in life, but eventually it happens. What potential is. Altogether, I just want you to know that this particular case happens once in 3 million ladies. So it happens. Once it's in Africa, in America, in England, it happens. And naturally it's a study case. But then, on Jewish halacha, do we have a proof or not? That's the question. Page number 4, if you have the pamphlet that I have left here, it's interesting. A couple was married 10 years, and the woman, the wife, had 10 times miscarriages. She couldn't have any children. You know, there's a halacha, it doesn't apply so much today, but at the end of Even Ezer, that after 10 years, he is allowed to divorce the wife because they can't have children. I'm not going to get into that halacha. Anyway, she remarried, and all of a sudden, she had a child later on. She couldn't understand what happened. They found out that she had 2 wombs. And somehow, when he had a relationship with her, it went into 1 womb. And the second one, the second husband, had the relationship with the second womb. And had a baby. Pidyon haben? You have a pidyon haben or not? What do you think? I want to hear from you first, before I start talking.
Why not?
Well, let's see the posuk. Let's see the posuk before you want. Very better or kol rechem. The posuk is in page number 14. The 2 psukim. Kadesh li kol bchor peter. Kol rechem b'bnei Yisrael. Kol rechem b'bnei Yisrael. So every rechem on one end. And however it says, Ach padot tivdeh et bchor ha'adam. What is the machlokes lichora between the 2 psukim?
Perhaps one is related to the father, one is related to the
No, the Adam is not the father is the obligation. Yeah. The Adam could be a woman. So what is it? Now, how would you learn?
One is Bchor Adam is talking about the Bchor himself, it's not the Bchor of Adam. Bchor Adam is Bchor himself.
But I agree with you, and therefore,
It could be 2.
but it could be 2. So what the Bchor is of whom? The Bchor is of the man, or the Bchor? Thank you. The Bchor is for the yoledet, for the lady who gives birth, or the Bchor we're talking about the womb or the uterus. What is the important part here? If the Bchor is on the rechem, so we have now 2 rechamim. We have 2 different uterus. If the Bchor is the yoledet, it's only 1 lady. You know, today, Ernie started to talk about IVF. What happened to IVF case? IVF, a lady has the eggs, she doesn't have she doesn't have a uterus, or vice versa. She has a uterus and she doesn't have the eggs. So the man, somehow, in the lab, they got the egg and the sperm, they have the embryo now. They implanted the embryo in another lady that was already married once. She had a baby once. Now, the egg is of the baby of the lady that could not give birth. She only gave the egg. The husband is the same husband. Do we have a second pidyon haben in the same lady? Go ahead.
What about when you do a uterine transplant? Is that so?
That's the next question. Thank you. Why don't you say the question? I don't need to say it. I don't have a voice. Go ahead. Say the question. Say the case, please.
So if you transplant uterus that have been already gone through perversion, so I already have it defiled, but now it's implanted to another person, is it now become is it the pidyon haben on the reference of that person?
Right.
Now becomes part of the person according to this. So, or is it just that the reference of just that?
Okay, for the ladies, because there are a few ladies, there are other questions as well to ask. When she's bleeding during the cycle, from what rechem is she bleeding? What is the time of 7 days of what? 9 days of what? Wow.
It should, technically, it should be,
Oh,
it should be concurrent because it's hormonally hormonal.
okay, you're a doctor, so you know that. Very good. Okay, but you understand the question that it was asked by the Rabbonim.
So doesn't this question also extrapolate to whether or not the child will be Jewish, depending on where the rechem is or not Jewish?
No. Dr. Rabbi Jason Wiener spoke a minute ago, and he quoted me, thank you, but he quoted Rabbi Shlomo Zalman too, against Rabbi Weiss. I feel, and I'm not a poisek. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman was a poisek, or is a poisek. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman said that the part of the body, when you instill it in the body, it's part of the body. So when you instill heart in the body, it becomes his heart. And if that's the case, when you instill or you implant a uterus, it's now the lady's part.
So when you implant a Jewish on both sides embryo into a non-Jewish...
No, because it's not on that part, because this is the created... On this one you can't learn the same. You can't compare it, because the sperm and the egg are the creating of the person. It's not part of the body. It's different. It's another shear for itself. Okay, I see where you're going to. What's not? I gave a shear a couple of years ago with a doctor as well of an eye, the blind man that could not see anything. Almost could not see anything. Actually, he couldn't see anything. From an halachic point of view, you would call him a blind. However, they connected, an Israeli company, an Israeli high-tech company, connected some sort of glasses to the brain. And through the glasses he could see. Would you call this man a blind man, an halachic or not? I would say no. Even though those glasses are outside of the body, definitely if there would be an earring, that is implanted in the body, in the mind, in the brain. In my opinion, it is part of the brain, of the part of the body, and therefore that particular person could listen to a shofar directly, no problem whatsoever. Again, I'm not a poison. I just tell you what I feel. Go ahead. Okay, so let me tell you, I'll bring you two rayas, one raya from each side, another, a third one, we have enough time, and a case on page number, if you don't mind, turn to page number 19.
Before current medical technology, would it have been possible to recognize that?
No, very good. Beautiful question. Now, Halperin wrote a sefer called Masech Hoshev, was saying definitely it's not two uterus don't exist, so to speak, because the Gemara brings a case. Why don't you bring the Gemara Beima and the Gemara in Chulin, the Beima and another Beima? How do you know the Pchol? Pchol is pushing another Beima.
Yeah, no, there was a case. The Gemara talks about a case where two animals are back to back, and one animal is pregnant, ejects the child into the other animal. That's the case you're talking about.
Right. So that case, so he says, why the Gemara brings that case? Why the Gemara doesn't bring the case that there are two uterus? You know why not, Rabbi? Because the Gemara didn't know.
You need technology to be able to see two uteruses.
The Gemara didn't know about it. Just today, after we have scanning and we have all the ultrasound, then we know what's going on. But otherwise, we didn't know what's going on. We just didn't know. The issue of trephus is also the Chazon Ish. I don't want to go into another issue. So, but anyway, so let's see. So you know what I'm talking about, trephus, right? Okay.
So like you said, I'm a little struggling with this. Inside the body, there's two sacs.
Yeah.
The exit spot, it's one or it's two?
Oh, the exit.
No. There's two cervixes. So there's two cervixes. One vaginal opening. So the Beis Haleida is one, but there's two cervixes. So the peter rechem, the opening of the rechem, is the cervix where the child comes out of the uterus. You see the picture?
Aren't there variations though where there's only one cervix?
Yeah, there's a variation where there's a septum within the uterus and there's only one cervix. But it's extreme. It's the embryological abnormalities go to the extreme. Again, this is the case. We have two uteruses is 1 in 3 million. It's the rarest type of duplication. No, 1 in 3 million. Where you have two discrete uteruses with two cervixes. That's much rarer than having a septum where you could have two fetuses in the one uterus with one cervical opening.
Okay, page number 19. Chazal brought a case, the Yavetz, Yaot Vash, brought a case that Moshe Rabbeinu, in the time, if you remember, Vayikach Ish Mebat Levi, Vayikach Bas Levi. What happened? Paro decided, I don't want to have any Jewish people in Egypt, and therefore I'm going to make a gzeira, a decree, no more men. Yocheved, the mother of Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, gave birth at that time already to two of them, to Aaron and to Miriam. Then she decided no more. She was very upset. They didn't have a choice. However, she was convinced, go ahead and again have a relationship with her husband. Good. She had a relationship with her husband, she had a baby. Who was Moshe? Says the Midrash that Moshe was born as a Pchol. Peter Rechem. Page number 19. Ube'emes at the end. Just the last. I'm not going to read all the Agoda. It's Agoda and soon enough we'll dispute it. ובאמת הכל לטובת משה ולקדושתו. ככתיב, קדש לי כל בכור, כל פטר רחם, כל פטר רחם להשם. ונאמר בראובן, כוחי יתר שאת, כי כל פטרי רחם להשם, ולכל יחסר גם קדושה זו למשה. חזרה לנעוריה, והייתה בתולה כמקודם, ונולד ממנה משה. Yocheved was a betula, she was again a virgin, and she had another, it is another rechem. That's what lechora the pshat here, that's how they learn the pshat. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu was a Kohen, was a Peter Rechem. That's what it's called. You cannot learn from the Agoda. I just want to tell you, en lemedim in Agoda, it's an Agoda, it's a Maisele. Is it true? Yes, it is true. Chazal wrote it in one way. I want to learn Lomdesh, and therefore, I will go and learn with you now a Gemara. Or I learn with Peter Rechem, as Ernie said a minute ago, the baby comes out, the embryo is created in the womb. What happens if an embryo is created in the pilotic, in the tubes? And Ernie, I don't know, can a baby be born that way?
I think
most of the cases, no. And we know very well if a baby or the embryo is born from in the tube, and however there was a cesarean. It's called in Chazal Yotze Dofen. Yotze Dofen means he's actually was born. But where was he alive? Where was he existed for the 9 months? Not in the tube. He was existed in the uterus, right? What happened if a baby was born? It was not born. It was alive in the tube for 3 months, 4 months, and then 6 months even, and then later on he died. He came out. Is he considered Yotze Dofen? Or he considered a Bchor? Or the second one that comes later on is considered from the regular way. Is he considered a regular baby? And is he considered a Bchor? Say Shevet HaLevi in page number 24. I want you to read it inside. We'll read it and translate it in Hebrew. Page number 24. בעניין אישה שנתעברה, at the bottom to the right, שנתעברה הריון חוץ לרחם בשחלות או בחצוצרות. She was, the baby was, got pregnant there. והפילה ולדה. מה הדין אם נתעברה אחר כך? What happened if later on again she got pregnant? וילדה זכר לעניין פדיון הבן דבית הרחם. Is the baby now a bchor or not? What would you think? The baby that was born after a baby that wasn't born.
Yeah, ectopic pregnancy.
Yeah.
After ectopic, right? After ectopic?
Yes, after an ectopic.
After ectopic.
Let's say there was a NAPL 3 or 4 months in, and then they had to remove the tube because the patient bled, had abdominal pain, so there was no delivery of that child, but it had grown for a period of time in the fallopian tube.
It was never going to be viable because it wasn't in the correct place, and so you can't have a natural birth.
You can't have natural birth, that's true, and therefore, but he was 4 months. Sometimes the Yotze Dofen is also 4 months. The baby that is in the womb and is 4 or 6 months, the same amount of time, and still you passing the halacha that baby that is born afterwards, later on the baby that is born, after, not right, then that baby is a bchor. No, it's not a bchor. After Yotze Dofen. How about this baby?
Is it similar if you have the first birth is by cesarean section and the second birth is natural? Like, why would that be?
It's not. Well, that's what Shevet HaLevi said. It's a difference. Because a baby is considered, a bchor is only considered if it is only involved in the rechem. Like he says, kol rechem. I care about the rechem. The rechem is the main thing. If the rechem is not there, if he's not in the rechem, he's not considered part of the pidyon about business. That's so to speak.
A baby that's born after Yotze Dofen, there's no child.
Because, right, but this baby...
What's the chiluk?
I'll tell you, because the baby that after Yotze Dofen, the baby was in the rechem.
This one was never in the rechem.
He was never in the rechem. I want to see it inside. והנה כבר הרגיש, בוודאי. כיוון שנתהווה תוך השחלה והחצוצרה, due to the fact that he was created, or was lived only through the tubes, והוציא אותו משם, אם כן, אין שום מקום להשתפר בפטירת הרחם. We don't have any doubt about the rechem, because he's not part of the rechem. Peter rechem, the rechem is the main thing. The rechem is the fixing point here, nothing else. And therefore, I asked you a question before. Is the rechem important? Or the yoledet, or the mother, or the surrogate? Who is important? According to him, definitely the rechem. That's what he says it. Let's see it inside. ובענייתי לא זו שאם הוציא אותו דרך שם, אם כן לא נגע ברחם כלם. He wasn't in the rechem. פטר rechem. Rechem is the main thing. That's what the Shevet HaLevi said. And therefore...
Can I ask a doctor a question about this?
Yes, sure.
Can you have, if you really something that ectopic pregnancies are solved through uterine extraction?
No.
So, but that's what he's talking about it.
No, it's not. It says it was...
That's what it means. That's not sort of gay.
It says even if they would.
Yeah, but that's not...
He's just trying to prove a theoretical point.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, they're not taken out. They're taken out usually through surgery.
Yeah.
כיוון שלא נטבע תוך הרחם, is not created, is not produced through the רחם, אין זה דרחם. שם יוצא דופן, different יוצא דופן, ובאחריו, יוצא דופן נטבע ברחם. ויוצא דרך הדפן. He is coming through the womb. He comes through the uterus. He comes through the uterus, and therefore, this is, I'm going to make it very short for you. I'm lost my voice completely, I apologize. However, this is a machloket about, there's Peter Rechem, which is pidyon haben, and also be'ema. Cohen don't have land in Eretz Yisrael, and therefore we are supposed to give him trumas, we're supposed to give him maisros, masot berlevim, and we're supposed to give to the Kohanim bchorim. All bchor be'ema that we have, we're supposed to give the bchor to him. Not only that, Peter Chamor we're also supposed to give to him. If we have a donkey, we're supposed to give him a donkey is carrying, also we're supposed to give. That's the halacha in Shulchan Aruch. Now, it says the Gemara in page number 27. I want to learn with you a little bit Gemara. Thank you. On top, page number 27. Rachel, what is Rachel? Sheep. Sheep שלא בחרה. וילדה שני זכורים. It was a sheep that was never pregnant before. And now, all of a sudden, she had two babies at the same time. Two little sheepies. ויצאו שני ראשיהם כאחד. And both of them, what? Shepselet. ויצאו שניהם ראשיהם כאחד. They came both together out. Who is the Bchor? You have a Bchor? Or not? Rabbi Yosef the Kohen. ונאמר, הסחורים להשם. הסחורים, it says the double. It's סחורים. וחכמים אומרים, אי אפשר לצמצם. אוקיי? רבי יוסי גלילי says different. הסחורים להשם, we give two. אי אפשר לצמצם, אי אפשר לצמצם. says אור שמח, in page number 26, I think it's 26. The truth of the matter, it goes according to the be'ema or to the person that gives birth. That's the halacha. According to that. Here you give two, you know why? Because it says chorim la'Hashem. Because the pasuk says as chorim. That plural. Therefore you have to. Otherwise, you can have two wombs, two uteruses, an artificial uterus and a regular uterus, two ladies, it doesn't make any difference. The halacha is one. That's what he says. Why? Because he learns, we look at it as if the yoledet is the ikar. The person is the ikar. It's not the rechem. We don't look at the rechem. We don't look at the womb. We look at the person who gives the birth. The person who gives the birth is one. And then she can give one uterus, two uteruses, even if she has three uteruses. She still has to give only one.
You say that Xeris HaKosov.
Xeris HaKosov. Let's see in the passage where it says it.
Then what about conjoined twins?
I'm sorry?
The conjoined twins.
Siamese twins.
If somebody's
Yeah, right.
So maybe.
אי אפשר לצמצם. The halacha is אי אפשר לצמצם. At the same time. We don't know בשמיים, we don't know what it is. That's why. Otherwise, true. Why say mysteries? Not say mysteries. You open the opening said there can be also two. But אי אפשר לצמצם. That's why you have only one. And therefore, the question is only on the 5 sloim, the money that you're supposed to give. It's momeness, it's a question of money, so you don't give any. That's what he says. But here, the behemoths you give, the two behemoths you give to the Kohen. So you see here the machloikes between the Osameach and the Shevet HaLevi, whether you are following the mother or you're following the womb. If you follow the womb, you have to have two. If you follow the mother, you have to have only one. But if you have now a womb of another mother, and according to our Rabbi Osher Weiss, that you say the womb does not belong to her, that the lady that gives the birth, so you have now two wombs. In such a case, you will have to have two wombs according to that, because you have to pay pidyon haben, because this lady had one time a baby, and now she gets another womb. It's a new womb, rechem twice. So that's the question. Yeah.
You're talking about the case of uterine transplant. If the woman had already had a child before they took out her uterus. No, she didn't. Because that wouldn't work, because she had already been a yolk. No. You're talking about if she never had a child, but the woman that donated the uterus had a child. Right. So he's talking about a case where the woman who had uterine cancer never had a child before, and she had her hysterectomy, and now she receives a uterine transplant from a woman who's previously given birth when she had her uterus.
No, the first one gave birth. No, the first one gave birth before. Now they remove the uterus.
So you want to talk about that case as well? It could go either way.
It could go either way. Right. So you have two times. Because before the other one didn't have, and now that uterus is. You look at the uterus.
According to the shot that it goes after the woman, the one she already gave birth. Who cares if it's a new? So if you want to cover both sheets, you'd have to give it. But my we wouldn't do it because it's a מחבר.
But the truth of the matter is, I want to tell you something else.
So I don't understand. Every time a woman gives birth to two children, if for soldiers why aren't we worried that the second one's a Bakar? We
know which one is coming out. We do know.
Sometimes the shot they come out exactly the same time.
Every time an animal has two children, worried that there's one of the 3 million that have an abnormality that has two.
You asked me a question. Why Chazal wouldn't worry? Because Chazal didn't know about it.
How could we make up this new shaila? The Torah didn't expect us to use our medical knowledge to change the halacha.
It's not changing the halacha. We had something that exists.
Oh, but hang on. He didn't understand. The Gemara is in Chulin? Where did we have the Gemara?
Which Gemara?
The Gemara about the two animals.
Chulin, yeah.
The Gemara dealt with the halacha. It dealt with it since it didn't know that there could be two uteruses. I said the case about back-to-back animals. And so it was housed in one, it grew up in one uterus, and then it was ejected into the other uterus. And then that other animal that received it gave birth to it. There the Gemara goes through a shaila, who is the Bechor? So it dealt with the issue of two uteruses. So you wanted to use that as a right because they didn't know. If they would have known, they wouldn't have to come up with that case with the animals. So they did deal with the shaila.
The Shevet HaLevi doesn't say it's totally in the aim. It just says that it didn't go through the rechem.
It's totally in the rechem. It's totally in the rechem.
It's totally in the rechem.
You say it's totally in the rechem.
And therefore, you're going to say if he has a double rechem, according to Shevet HaLevi, it would come out.
Maybe two.
Maybe chayv two. And the Or Sameach?
No, Sameach is not the mother. Because it's a kosu. But go ahead.
I realize it's more of an immediate issue of dealing with the with the pidyon haben, but why do you not also include the consequence of which one is the before for situation of
I accept provision. But Yerusha is momentless. Momentless is a little bit easier. It's another issue. Momentless and mother, father, that's another issue. We can have other questions as well. I want to give you another chiddush that really is my chiddush, and I would like to hear from you if you accept it or not. You know the halacha is treifes. There's a behemoth that has 5 legs. Wow. Is behemoth kosher or not? You have so many rabbonim here. The halacha is the behemoth is not kosher. Why?
No,
because kol yeter kenatul dami. If there is more, kenatul is like nothing.
It's as if it's been removed.
I don't say removed. Kol yeter kenatul dami. Explains Rashi. Kol yeter kenatul dami is chaser. It's missing. It's not that you add now you have 5th leg. You have now as if you have 3 legs. Maybe you have 2 legs. Maybe you have 1 leg. Ramban does not agree. Ramban says no. Kol yeter kenatul dami, you have 5 legs. But that 5th one is, what did you say? It's removed. So it's removed like a nekev, like there's a hole there. That's what the Ramban. You understand? You guys understand or not? Kol yeter, if you have too much, you have nothing. According to Rashi, Kol yeter kenatul dam is chaser, it's empty, it's red, it's rek, it's nothing is there. According to Ramban, no, there are 4 legs, but it's always there are 5 legs. 5 legs, what's wrong? 5 includes 4. No, because there's a hole there. Therefore, it's bad. It's straight. Now, let's take our case. We have two different wombs, uteruses. According to Rashi, if you have 2, 1 too many. What does it mean? Chaser. What does it mean chaser? There's nothing there. So it's not high at all in pidyon haben. If somebody has 2. According to Ramban, no, it's regular one. So in Treifes, there's a cause of no. In Peter Rechem, there's 1. So it's okay. Will be a machlokes between Rashi and Ramban whether is no pidyon haben when you have 2, and Ramban will say there's 1, but definitely not 2. You guys understand? Agree? You didn't hear me. Can you repeat it to Rabbi Israel?
No, he wanted to point out that by an animal born with an extra limb, so the machlokes Rashi and the Ramban, how to view that. Rashi says as if there's no legs there at all. We don't view it as any legs. The Ramban says, what do you mean? It has a leg, but there's an emptiness there. There's a halal, there's a space. That's what makes it trade. Yeah, according to both, they're not kosher. They're not kosher. Absent womb, I don't think is one of the Yudchas Treifes. It's not categorized among the Yudchas Treifes. The Yudchas Treifes gives us which limbs have to be missing to make it treif. Right, so but he wants to say make the tzushta regarding the 2 uteruses. According to Rashi, it's as if there's no uterus there. So it doesn't make a difference how many children there will be no din pet rechem because there's no rechem there. That's what he wants to say.
But that's as far as even according to Rashi.
Oh, very good. So if of tzitzis, if of sefer Torah, I'll give you. I have a dozen halachas that kol yeter kenatul dam is according to in all the Torah. That's a good question. I will ask that question. Because published in an article in Moria in Israel. And somebody asked that question. The editor didn't want to put it in, and I have the whole. If you want, I can give you.
It's a sub-shear that Tzvika will give for 3 hours after 1 o'clock.
Tzitzis and tefillin and tzitzis, 7 Torah. You know 7 Torah. If you go make an additional letter, it's possible everything. Why not? Why should it be possible? Whoever has a sefer, with a sefer here, I don't know. Right? Yeter natul dami is a whole Torah kula. That's what people thought. It's only treifes, it's not just treifes. You ask a great question. But the answer is simple as that. It's in many, many other. You have 5 cities. Instead of 4. And therefore, according to Rashi considered that it's possible. 5 cities is possible. Why is it possible? Because it's the 5th? Or it's possible because it's nothing there. Rashi holds it's nothing there. So therefore, the rechem, the womb, the uterus is not there. There's no uterus. There's no pidyon haben whatsoever. According to Ramban, no. Ramban says that. It's in Ostreifes, it's a nekem. Since it's also not good, but for another reason. But in the uterus, what's wrong with that? So I have 1 uterus. 1 uterus. There's a pidyon haben. This is the machlokes between Rashi and Ramban. So you can see what's happening now today with new technology.
I think maybe Rabbi Agatstein is asking the following: that maybe by pidyon haben there's a special din. It's totally in the mitzias. This is how he could ask a question on what you're saying. Maybe it's totally in the mitzias. You're right. By tzitzis, it's a din. In Sefer Torah, it's a din. It's a chalois. That you could say it's kenatul dami. But legabi peter rechem is totally in mitzias.
Why in regel is not totally in mitzias?
Like treifes, it could be that it's considered that we consider that because it's an extra thing. He doesn't need it anymore. You're right. Treifes is the biggest imyan to you. Out of everything, it's the biggest imyan to you. I would not even bring the other ones. It's the biggest imyan to you. But I still think it could be there's a chiluk.
I have more than tzitzis. If you want the lotion, Shibina Roba quotes the lotion that he said is in the Alter Kula. There's no reason why not. the rule. Sofik Bor is Laken.
It's a Metzias. There's a
Sofik Bor is Laken. It's what? It's a din, it's Metzias. Every, you know what? Chazoke. Is Metzias or din?
The thing is,
What is Chazoke? Din or Metzias?
The Metzias creates a din.
There's nothing wrong with extra room. It's a perfectly, maybe it's rare, but it's not
There's nothing wrong. Chazoke is nothing wrong. But it's
Prime synthesis is not, it's baltosis. It's not what's meant for synthesis. Some women have extra room.
And you tell me what's wrong with the Sefer Torah that you must see another you?
No, the Torah you're not, the Torah is given as it's given.
You want me to give you another rice? There was another rice there.
Interactive sheet.
It's okay. I love the questions. I love disagreeing with me. Since
It has to be a mum of some sort.
It's not mum. It's not mum.
It has to be wrong.
Well, having two uteruses.
No, it's a mum.
Having two uteruses, you could.
It's about filling.
It might make it harder to be pregnant. You think it's more, but it might be hard because the anatomic doesn't flow.
Somebody who has two roshim. Two roshim. Somebody has two roshim. Shem is big. Okay. It says that Shibino in Dove Mishorim. מילא ניחא של דיין תפילין לכסוף הכלל שלא יניח על שני ראשים. He has to put on תפילין on two heads. There's no reason. משום דאבא מן הידע שנחשב כאדם אחד, because you look at a human being, one person, משום שהוא כגוף אחד. You see, you can look at both ways, even in the case of tefillin.
Why Rashi is zero?
Yes, sir, by head.
By what? By head, you should put on tefillin. The Gemara asked the Shaila. It's not my Gemara. The Gemara asked the Shaila. But the Gemara Menachem Lamed Zayin.
Yes, sir, Kanato.
Rashi doesn't say that. Rashi doesn't say
Because
that.
you can't live without the head.
Oh, you can't live without the head. No, the same thing here. One. You call me the right name. You're still my neighbor.
I think that, like, even for artery and something, all of these cases are considered medical anomalies. When you use the word anomalous, it means it's not normal, not regular. And in that way, it can be conceived of as a lump in that it's not, it's against the way of nature in quotes.
But that's yeter. What's yeter? Tell them yeter. 5 legs is a mum or not? In a trephus. What do you think?
I think it has to be.
Negative.
What?
Negative things.
What is negative? For the baby, it's negative. What's negative? You know what? Between me and you, I'm not so sure the woman that carries two wombs is not negative for her to have 2 of them.
I explained that maybe the anomalous anatomy may make it harder for her to get pregnant for various reasons. So it's not that, but that's irrelevant, perhaps.
I don't think it's relevant because it's mum or not. Kolieter cannot dami is not mum. It's not the issue of mum. It's what is more is considered as not. You don't have it. That's the term. It's not necessarily mum.
I mean, like on Hilchos Shabbos, so you're going to say like that if you take that 5th leg, you may go, well, you don't have to go on Shabbos. Estrogen doesn't take away the disease of the leg. Maybe it did in the body. It doesn't take away the disease of the item. You take it at night and you slash it on Shabbos.
Are you allowed to? That beima is allowed to. If a human being has 3 legs and it doesn't exist, you would be able to go out with the 3rd leg. Sure, not be able to. It's the best. You will be able to go with the 3rd leg?
Where? Shabbos?
No, Shabbos out. Without able. Of course.
It doesn't mean, yes, no, the human disease doesn't exist. That's what you're thinking now. There's no disease. You're saying the rest doesn't exist. That's what you're saying. No one said that.
And from an logic point of view, it doesn't exist. It's not considered rechem. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I say it doesn't exist. It's affect to the way you see it. The leg does not exist. The 5th leg does not exist. It exists. But halacha to call it Peter Rechem, Rechem is not. You see Yotze Dofen. Why Yotze Dofen is not? Xeras HaKosel what's Yotze Dofen is not? Still, you did the Rechem. He was dead 9 months, or 10 months. Sometimes the baby comes out much later. But still, you went to Yotze Dofen, because the doctor cut and the cesarean is not. Rechem in Mitabe Rechem. Oh, no, Yotze Dofen. Because that's not considered the Rechem. That's the Shaila.
No, it didn't come out the derech harechem the way the pi harechem. It's got to come out. It's not just the rechem. It's got to also come out pi harechem.
Oh, so
it comes out above.
So that's
it didn't come out.
a normal. If you have a rechem, now you have two rechem. Maybe it's not a rechem. Maybe it is a rechem. Or maybe you have two rechamim. It's not considered rechem for pidyon haben purposes. To be mechayev me, to obligate me to pidyon haben, I'm not so sure you can. Listen, I accept what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I know it's a chiddush. I'm not fighting for it because it's Baruch Hashem is my chiddush. But other think about it. Rimi Reis and Shas. I'm wrong. I love it. Metzias is not Metzias. By the way, I told you Chazoki. What is Chazoki? Chazoki is a din or Metzias? Not Chazoki. Rov. What is Rov? Briske Rov. What is Rov? What is Rov? Rov is Metzias. All of them like this? Or no? Shofet. I'm not going to go there. So what is wrong? Messias? No. It's very easy to say. We talk about the din. Is it pidyon or not pidyon? Make a pidyon or not? I say, don't make a pidyon because there's no rechem. It's rechem koser. Ramban asked from the Rashi. I don't understand Rashi. If you look at the Russian, Ramban, page number wherever it was, he said, I don't understand Rashi. Rashi doesn't make any sense. הרמב"ן, where is it? הרמב"ן. לי נראה שלא אמרו כל כעת כמה שהוא בה, אלא כנטול ובלבד למקומו. I don't understand what Rashi says. Rashi doesn't make any sense. לכאורה, Rashi doesn't make any sense, but that's what Rashi says. Rashi says kosa, that's the Russian. Rashi says, כאילו נכת, ממקום צומת תגידים כשהיה כאילו נכתך מאותו מקום. וכדאמרינא נטול דמים ולא אמרינא כחוסר דמים. זה חוסר, ממש חוסר. Rashi, you want to prove, if you can prove me from somewhere that there is a difference between Metzias and there is a difference in Rov. We kill according to the Rov. But what does it mean? That there wasn't Metzias that day? No. That's why we need Sanhedrin, all Sanhedrin to agree to that. Because we're not sure. So it's Shofet, right? So the Reis and the Chumrah, fine. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate it. The technology today is unreal. Thank you.
I want to thank Dr. Agatstein for his medical background. I want to thank Ktzvi for always being there, his beautiful shiur and just his very engaging style.